Welcome to Gospel Greetings number 120 and happy Civic holiday. Today we continue in our series on the book The 10-Second Rule by Claire DeGraff. Last week we discussed chapter 2 of the 10-Second Rule called Dueling Voices from Luke 9:23. Then he said to them all, "If any man will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily and follow me." It's as if Jesus is saying to you and me, just start here today. Trust me. When you and I give up trying to figure it all out ahead of time and simply follow Jesus daily and hourly and in the next 10 seconds, doing whatever he asks us to do, we'll actually move closer to the previously elusive ideal of absolute surrender than when we had ever dreamed possible. And this again is the 10-second rule. Just do the next thing you're reasonably certain Jesus wants you to do, and commit to it immediately in the next 10 seconds before you change your mind. This week we will be continuing on to chapter 3, called Listening to the Voice of God from Proverbs 3:6, which says, "Listen for God's voice in everything you do, everywhere you go. He's the one who will keep you on track," from the Message translation. In chapter 3, DeGraff outlines what it means to listen to the voice of God and respond in obedience. He talks about how to discern if it is the will of God, but also encourages readers not to focus so much on knowing exactly what God wants all the time, and instead being willing to just act and trust that God will make the most of this time. He uses the word impression or sensed when describing God's voice. A wise choice. I've heard a lot of "thus saith the Lord" that seemed a little off. For those of you who have been to Solely Business, Band of Brothers, or a Tres Dias weekend, you will be familiar with the idea of quieting your mind, asking God to speak, and hearing his voice. One of our guys who said, "God never speaks to me," after 1 hour of silence, came back with 5 pages of notes of God speaking. I guess there was pent-up demand. The more you know about the teachings of Jesus Christ, the more confident you'll become following him. Later on in chapter 9, we're going to see the School of Jesus, and we'll talk more about this. Now, DeGraff says, "The men and women I've known whose lives are characterized by this simple but courageous childlike obedience end up making career, college, ministry, and marriage choices with far less angst, precisely because they spent far more time actually doing the will of God than looking for it." So when God impresses you to do something and you hear yourself respond mentally with a "but," be very careful. That word "but" and the thought that follows it are very likely that other voice. Guys, the voice simply often says to me, "Call John. His wife is sick right now," so I give him a call. And this week, my own mom was down because she had lost a close lifetime friend. This friend was a sister in the Lord, and they regularly checked in with each other. And God seemed to be saying me, "Go see your mom," and I did. On Friday, I drove to Sudbury, visited for the afternoon, and came home. She was very appreciative in her mourning. And this is how we hear God's voice and obey. Because, like I said before, it comes down to a decision, a personal decision to be far more serious about being like Jesus at home and at the office than you've ever thought before. Bless you, brothers.